in the dark, I cover up my heart. Don't wanna fight again, I'm not a kind of man. Seems like you are in my room. No way I can't escape from you. My soul is so confused. Without change I will lose you. And I don't know what I'm fighting for, or why I have to scream. But I know that I feel insecure when you're better with me. Should I keep going? Should I believe? My heart is still locked and I'm missing the key. But I know that I feel insecure when you're not with me. Insecure when you're not with me. You're not with me. Running through my mind, but I couldn't find my role in our play. Doesn't make sense to stay.
It's Insecure by Anecdote and John Becker. It's 10:36 in the morning in South Korea.
My soul is so confused. Oh, without change, I lose you.
Welcome, as always, to this Wednesday morning, at least for me anyway. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Everything GM broadcast.
When you're better with me, should I keep going? Should I believe?
We're doing all right today. Let's let this song drop and then get right into the stream. Here we go. That's amazing. I'll say it one more time. Insecure by Anecdote and John Becker. Thank you very much for tuning in. How is everyone today? I'm doing quite fine, thank you very much. Today we've got a nice stream packed up for you today. We're going back to the reading corner, and in the absence of any requests for reading, we're going to read exactly what I want to read, and that is still the Star Wars Episode 3 novelization. Again, I have to say this, non-canon, unfortunately, but it does give us a lot of cool character analyses that we could draw from, which I will talk about when we read. For the moment, though, we're headed to we're headed to just calm down a little bit with our usual meditations, and just for a few minutes. And following that, we'll head over to some more media discussions. And if anyone would like to discuss anything media related, any books, TV series, movies, franchises, anything like that, feel free to let me know. Right. How's everyone doing today? Are you hydrated? Do you have water? If you're on the west side of the world, you should have had lots of water already. It is evening. This playlist is like so cool. I actually have, I think I've used all of the songs in the playlist, but I'm still I'm still using it. These songs are just great. The playlist itself only lasts for what, 5 hours? Yeah, 5 hours. But that's fine. Well, why are we late today? I apologize. I apologize for being so late. I mean, it's only 30 minutes, but, you know, that's a long time. I woke up a little bit later, but mainly I would have been able to stream on time, but for two reasons. I wanted to eat my breakfast a little bit slowly, a little bit more more slowly than you know, like rushing it and gulping it all down. And there's a gap on my screen. I'm gonna just close that quickly. Oh, that's bad. Okay, no, we're good. Yeah, the first reason was that I wanted to wanted to eat my breakfast at a reasonable pace, and the second reason is that one of my friends, Akil, is streaming on Twitch right now, and unfortunately, it just seems that we start like it turns out that he only streams on Tuesdays, but at the same time as me on this is now Wednesday morning for me. So we literally stream at exactly the same time on that week, which is very unfortunate. And I'm considering I might change it so that I can watch them because yeah, their streams are really cool. For everyone else, if you're over there and not here, that's fine. You should go there, because they're all playing Prince of Persia over there, which is awesome. And there's someone playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance in the comments, which is great. So I don't mind being here. That is totally cool. Goodness gracious. Right. Before we get into the reading, without further ado, let's get some meditations going. Alrighty. It's 10:41. It's time to relax. As I always say, the point of these meditations is to remind us that time is passing us. But also that we are moving within it. And more importantly, that it's not moving too fast or too slow, but that we are moving too fast or too slow. Time has always moved at the same pace, ever forward. And all we can do, all we should do, is just take some time to chill. A new person arrives in stream. I stopped drinking though, no sus of course. Huge ups to you. Hey JDX the kid. How are things? I've never seen you in chat before. How are you? And what brought you here? When you say drinking, do you mean water? Because hydrating is good. I have no idea. Well, I'm glad you're here. You're just in time for us to just relax for a moment. It's a bit of a meditation. So while you're here with me, I want you to take some time. Think about your day. Wherever you are in the world, if you're on the western side, then this is Tuesday evening for you. So take some time, close your eyes, get into a comfortable position. At the beginning of every one of my streams, I like to do this. So if you prefer not to, that's fine. You can wait to the end. But if you are doing this with me, then take some time to get comfortable. You could be sitting, you could be lying down. Just a place where you could quite possibly fall asleep. Slowly start to become aware of your surroundings as each breath sinks you further in to your concentration. Is there traffic? Can you hear birds? Then focus a little bit more inwardly focus that with each notice, each in-breath and out-breath displaces the air around you. Take notice of that. And then, I'd like you to focus a little bit deeper still. And focus on inside. Feel your breathing expand everything and feel it just deflate on every out-breath. And I'd like you to do that for 1 minute. Just a minute. Not starting yet. Don't count, just exist for a while. Let your internal clock do it. 1 minute, starting now. That's your minute. How did you do? You too fast? Too slow? Did you get it about right? Either way, that's fine. And now, we're going to come out of it. Slowly, expand your senses outwards. They've been focused on inside your body this whole time. Now, go out. Expand them out to the air around you. Feel it push against you as you breathe in and out. Expand it further then. And notice what you can hear in your surroundings. Is there traffic? Are there birds? And slowly, over the next 30 seconds, when you're ready, you can start to wake up. Man, whoever JDX the kid is, I think they disappeared. JDX the kid, are you still here? It doesn't say so on my feed. So, who knows? But as soon as I started the meditation, it went from 1 to 0. Right. Let's bring up that energy again. It is 10:49, nearly 11, and it's time for us to do some reading. Let's give it some time. We're going to be reading once again what we have read the last time. We're going to just continue with what we were doing, and that is reading the Star Wars Episode 3 novelization. Unfortunately, not a canon novelization, but a great one nonetheless. And that is what we're going to look at today. Excellent. Oh, it even picked up where we left off. That's amazing. Thank you, Microsoft Edge. I actually was quite... I started using Microsoft Edge when I got... Like, my new laptop has Windows 11 on it. And I have to say... Hello, gap in my green screen. Where are you coming from? Very strange. It's a little star. It's its own little star, and it's just chilling. I have no idea. I really had no idea about Microsoft Edge and whether it was going to be good when I upgraded to Windows 11, but it was, and it turns out that it's great, and I actually really like it, because it uses the Chrome engine anyway. I think not a lot of people know that. So it's basically Chrome, just on a Microsoft computer, and it's quite well optimized with all of your other like Windows assets. So yeah, I just like it. I think it's really cool. Right. We are going to dive right in. To give you some context, if you've never read this novelization before, we've just done a bit of a background for the Battle of Coruscant and explaining about how the Chancellor was kidnapped, and then going into the first part of the battle, and also analyzing Obi-Wan Kenobi as a character and introducing him to the reader. So that's where we are now. And for the second, I'd like to, for this moment, we'll be starting. So, yeah, if you like it, let's go ahead and do it. Make sure you are hydrated once again. And if I yawn, it's because I'm dying and I need air. Alrighty. Here we go. We've just talked about Obi-Wan as being the ultimate Jedi and proud to be Anakin Skywalker's best friend. R2, where's that signal? From its socket beside the cockpit, R2-D2 whistled and beeped. A translation spidered across Anakin's console readout. Scanning. Lots of ECM signal jamming. And let's go ahead and make sure that you can read along with me. Here we go. Keep on it. He glanced at Obi-Wan's starfighter limping through the battle 100 meters off his left wing. I can feel his jitters from all the way over here. A tootle. A Jedi is always calm. He won't think it's funny. Neither do I. Less joking, more scanning. For Anakin Skywalker, starfighter battles were usually as close to fun as he ever came. This one wasn't. Not because of the overwhelming odds, or the danger he was in. He didn't care about odds. He didn't think of himself as being in any particular danger. A few wings of droid fighters didn't much scare a man who'd been a pod racer since he was 6 and had won the Boonta Cup at 9, who was in fact the only human to ever finish a pod race, let alone win one. In those days he'd used the Force without knowing it. He thought the Force was something inside him. Just a feeling, an instinct, a string of lucky guesses that led him through maneuvers other pilots wouldn't dare attempt. Now, though. Now he could reach into the Force and feel the engagement throughout Coruscant space as though the whole battle were happening inside his head. His vehicle became his body. The pulses of its engines were the beat of his own heart. Flying, he could forget about his slavery, about his mother, about Geonosis and Jabim, Argonar and Munilist, and all the catastrophes of this brutal war, about everything that had been done to him, and everything he had done. He could even put aside, for as long as the battle roared around him, the starfire of his love for the woman who waited for him on the world below, the woman whose breath was his only air, whose heartbeat was his only music, whose face was the only beauty his eyes would ever see. He could put all this aside because he was a Jedi, because it was time to do a Jedi's work. But today was different. Today wasn't about dodging lasers and blasting droids. Today was about the life of the man who might as well have been his father. A man who could die if the Jedi didn't reach him in time. Anakin had been late once before. Obi-Wan's voice came over the cockpit speakers flat and tight. "Does your droid have anything? R4's hopeless. I think the last cannon hit cooked his motivator." Anakin could see exactly the look on his former master's face. A mask of calm belied by a jaw so tight that when he spoke his mouth barely moved. "Don't worry, Master. If his beacon's working, R2 will find it. Have you thought about how we'll find the Chancellor if—" "No," Obi-Wan sounded absolutely certain. "There's no need to consider it. Until the possible becomes actual, it is only a distraction. Be mindful of what is, not what might be." Anakin had to stop himself from reminding Obi-Wan that he wasn't a Padawan anymore. "I should have been here," he said through his teeth. "I told you, I should have been here." "Anakin, he was defended by Stas Ali and Shak Ti. If two masters could not prevent this, do you think you could? Stas Ali is clever and valiant, and Shak Ti is the most cunning Jedi I've ever met. She's even taught me a few tricks." Anakin assumed he was supposed to be impressed. "But General Grievous—" "Master T had faced him before, Anakin, after Munilist. She's not only subtle and experienced, but very capable indeed. Seats on the Jedi Council aren't handed out as party favors." "I've noticed." He let it drop. The middle of a space battle was no place to get into this particular sore subject. If only he'd been here. Him instead of Shak Ti and Stas Ali, council members or not. If he had been here, Chancellor Palpatine would be home and safe already. Instead, Anakin had been stuck running around the Outer Rim for months like some useless Padawan, and old Palpatine had for protectors were Jedi who were clever and subtle. Clever and subtle. He could whip any 10 clever and subtle Jedi with his lightsaber tied behind his back. But he knew better than to say so. "Put yourself in the moment, Anakin. Focus." "Copy that, Master," Anakin said dryly. "Focusing now." R2-D2 twittered, and Anakin checked his console readout. "We've got him, Master. The cruiser dead ahead. That's Grievous's flagship. Invisible Hand." "Anakin, there are dozens of cruisers dead ahead." "It's the one crawling with vulture fighters." The vulture fighters clinging to the long curves of the Trade Federation cruiser, indicated by Palpatine's beacon, gave it eerily lifelike ripples, like some metallic marine predator bristling with Alderaanian walking barnacles. "Oh, that one." He could practically hear Obi-Wan's stomach dropping. "Oh, this should be easy." Now some of them stripped themselves from the cruiser, ignited their drives, and came looping toward the two Jedi. Easy? No. But it might be fun. Sometimes a little teasing was the only way to get Obi-Wan to loosen up. "Lunch at Dexys says I'll blast 2 for each of yours. R2 can keep score." "Anakin." "All right, dinner. And I promise this time I won't let R2 cheat. No games, Anakin. There's too much at stake." There. That was the tone Anakin had been looking for. A slightly scolding, schoolmaster-ish edge. Obi-Wan was back on form. "Have your droid tight beam a report to the temple, and send out a call for any Jedi and starfighters. We'll come at it from all sides." Way ahead of you. But when he checked his comm readout, he shook his head. "There's still too much ECM. R2 can't raise the temple. I think the only reason we can even talk to each other is we're practically side by side." "And Jedi beacons?" "No joy, Master." Anakin's stomach clenched, but he fought the tension out of his voice. "We may be the only 2 Jedi out here. Then we'll have to be enough. Switching to clone fighter channel." Anakin spun his comm dial to the new frequency in time to hear Obi-Wan say, "Oddball, do you copy? We need help." The clone captain's helmet speaker flattened the humanity out of his voice. "Copy, Red Leader." "Mark my position and form your squad behind me. We're going in." "On our way." The droid fighters had lost themselves against the background of the battle, but R2-D2 was tracking them on scan. Anakin shifted his grip on his starfighter's control yoke. 10 vultures inbound, high and left to my orientation. More on the way." "I have them, Anakin. Wait, the cruiser's base shields have dropped. I'm reading 4, no, 6 ships incoming." Obi-Wan's voice rose. "Tri-fighters, coming in fast." Anakin's smile tightened. This was about to get interesting. "Tri-fighters first, Master. The vultures can wait." "Agreed. Slip back and right. Swing behind me. We'll take them on the slant. Let Obi-Wan go first? With a blown left control surface and half-crippled R-unit? With Palpatine's life at stake? Not likely. Negative, Anakin said. I'm going head-to-head. See you on the far side. Take it easy. Wait for Oddball in Squad 7. Anakin! He could hear the frustration in Obi-Wan's voice as he kicked his starfighter sublights and surged past. His former master still hadn't gotten used to not being able to order Anakin around. Not that Anakin had ever been much for following orders. Obi-Wan's or anyone else's. Sorry we're late. The digitized voice of the clone, whose call sign was Oddball, sounded as calm as if he were ordering dinner. We're on your right, Red Leader. Where's Red 5? Anakin, form up! But Anakin was already streaking to meet the Trade Federation fighters. Incoming! Obi-Wan's familiar sigh came clearly over the comm. Anakin knew exactly what the Jedi Master was thinking. The same thing he was always thinking. He still has much to learn. Anakin's smile thinned to a grim, straight line as enemy starfighters swarmed around him, and he thought the same thing he always thought. We'll see about that. He gave himself to the battle, and his starfighter whirled, and his cannons hammered, and all droids on all sides began to burst into clouds of debris and superheated gas. This was how he relaxed. This is Anakin Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi of his generation, perhaps of any generation, the fastest, the strongest, an unbeatable pilot, an unstoppable warrior. On the ground, in the air or sea or space, there is no one even close. He has not just power, not just skill, but dash, that rare, invaluable combination of boldness and grace. He is the best there is at what he does, the best there has ever been, and he knows it. HoloNet features call him the hero with no fear, and why not? What should he be afraid of? Except fear lives inside him anyway, chewing away the firewalls around his heart. Anakin sometimes thinks of the dread that eats at his heart as a dragon. Children on Tatooine tell each other of the dragons that live inside the suns. Smaller cousins of the sun dragons are supposed to live inside the fusion furnaces that power everything from starships to pod racers. But Anakin's fear is another kind of dragon. A cold kind. A dead kind. Not nearly dead enough. Not long after he became Obi-Wan's Padawan all those years ago, a minor mission had brought them to a dead system, one so immeasurably old that its star had long ago turned to a frigid dwarf of hypercompacted trace metals, hovering a quantum fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Anakin couldn't even remember what the mission might have been, but he'd never forgotten that dead star. It had scared him. Stars can die? It is the way of the universe, which is another manner of saying that it is the will of the Force, Obi-Wan had told him. Everything dies. In time, even stars burn out. This is why Jedi form no attachments. All things pass. Excuse me. To hold on to something, or someone, beyond its time is to set your selfish desires against the Force. That is a path of misery, Anakin. The Jedi do not walk it. That is the kind of fear that lives inside Anakin Skywalker, the dragon of that dead star. It is an ancient, cold, dead voice within his heart that whispers all things die. In bright day, he can't hear it. Battle, a mission, even a report before the Jedi Council can make him forget it's even there. But at night, the walls he has built sometimes start to frost over. Sometimes they start to crack. At night, the dead star dragon sometimes sneaks through the cracks and crawls up into his brain and chews at the inside of his skull. The dragon whispers of what Anakin has lost and what he will lose. The dragon reminds him every night of how he held his dying mother in his arms, of how she had spent her last strength to say, "I knew you would come for me, Anakin." The dragon reminds him every night that someday he will lose Obi-Wan, he will lose Padme, or they will lose him. All things die, Anakin Skywalker. Even stars burn out. And the only answers he ever has for these dead, cold whispers are his memories of Obi-Wan's voice, or Yoda's. But sometimes he can't quite remember them. All things die. He can barely even think about it. But right now, he doesn't have a choice. The man he flies to rescue is a closer friend than he'd ever hoped to have. That's what puts the edge in his voice when he tries to make a joke. That's what flattens his mouth and tightens the burn scar high on his right cheek. The Supreme Chancellor has been a family to Anakin, always there, always caring, always free with advice and unstinting aid, a sympathetic ear and a kindly, loving, unconditional acceptance of Anakin exactly as he is, the sort of acceptance Anakin could never get from another Jedi, not even from Obi-Wan. He can tell Palpatine things he could never share with his master. He can tell Palpatine things he can't even tell Padme. Now the Supreme Chancellor is in the worst kind of danger, and Anakin is on his way, despite the dread boiling through his blood. That's what makes him a real hero. Not the way the holonet labels him, not without fear, but stronger than fear. He looks the dragon in the eye and doesn't even slow down. If anyone can save Palpatine, Anakin will, because he's already the best, and he's still getting better. But locked away behind the walls of his heart, the dragon that is his fear coils and squirms and hisses, because his real fear, in a universe where even stars can die, is that being the best will never be quite good enough. Oh, let's take a short break. Goodness gracious, what a book. It's incredible. If you're just tuning in, it is 11:07 a.m. in South Korea. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you're just tuning in, you're just in time to read some of the Star Wars Episode 3 novelization with me. If you're wondering what episode of Star Wars this is from, yes, it's from Episode 3. And if you've never read this book before, welcome. We're going to read it together every Wednesday and Friday at this time. Please, please feel free to give your comments in the chat. It helps us talk about it when we take breaks from reading it. For me, this character analysis of Anakin is some of the best I've ever seen. And I praise this book for everything it does in this regard, but the way that it describes Anakin is incredible. The people the people in the Jedi Council, for all the disparagement that he gives them, they read him like a book from the time that he was a kid, and he constantly resented them for that. He resented them for reading him so incredibly well. Yoda said it first. I sense much fear in you. And that is him. Anakin is fear. Fear that he is not good enough. Fear that he is not the best. Fear that he can't save the people he loves. He never learned how to be a Jedi. He learned the compassion part of being a Jedi, but he learned it in the wrong way, because, well, I mean, for many reasons. Whereas Palpatine or the Jedi Council, or most importantly, Anakin himself, he never learned Jedi compassion. And compassion is different from Jedi compassion. As we see in Star Wars, Jedi compassion is more like Buddhist compassion. But as if Buddhists were like, also warriors that ensured that their peace could, pass over the world and stay that way. What a Jedi is supposed to do is not just be compassionate and empathetic towards, people. They are supposed to be an equal level of compassionate towards every being in the galaxy. They cannot pick favorites. They can't, because they're too powerful to pick favorites. And so if they have favorites, they will use their power to protect those favorites over everyone else. The point of a Jedi is to have an even amount of compassion for every species and every being in the whole galaxy. That is the point of a Jedi. It's something that Anakin could never learn. Very, very interesting. And this is not the first time that we will see the infamous mention of a dragon of fear in Anakin's heart. That dragon will come back later in this book, because there's a very famous quote from it that I've read before. I haven't actually read this book, but yeah. Oh, goodness. Right. Make sure you're hydrated, please. And let's continue with this battle, shall we? Here we go. Obi-Wan's starfighter jolted sideways. Anakin whipped by him and used his forward attitude jets to kick himself into a skew flip, facing backward to blast the last of the TIE-fighters on his tail. Now, there were only vulture droids left. A lot of vulture droids. Did you like that one, Master? Very pretty. Obi-Wan's cannon stitched plasma across the hull of a swooping vulture fighter until the droid exploded. But we're not through yet. Watch this! Anakin flipped his starfighter again and dived, spinning directly through the flock of vulture droids. Their drives blazed as they came around. He led them streaking for the upper deck of a laser-scarred separatist cruiser. I'm going to lead them through the needle. Don't lead them anywhere. Obi-Wan's threat display tallied the vultures on Anakin's tail. 12 of them. 12. First Jedi principle of combat. Survive. No choice. Anakin slipped his starfighter through the storm of cannon fire. Come down and thin him out a little. Obi-Wan slammed his control yoke forward, as though jamming it against his impact rest would push his battered fighter faster in pursuit. Nothing fancy, R4, as though the damaged droid were even capable of anything fancy. Just hold me steady. He reached into the Force and felt for his shot. On my mark. Brake left. Now! The shutdown control surface of his left wing turned the left brake into a tight overhead spiral that traversed Obi-Wan's guns across the paths of 4 vultures. Flash, 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 flash! And all 4 were gone. He flew on through the clouds of glowing plasma. He couldn't waste time going around. Anakin still had 8 of them on his tail. And what was this? Obi-Wan frowned. The cruiser looked familiar. The needle? He thought. Oh, please say you're kidding. Anakin's starfighter skimmed only meters above the cruiser's dorsal hull. Cannon misses from where the vulture fighter swooping towards him blasted chunks out of the cruiser's armor. Okay, R2, where's that trench? I've received some chat messages. Kneel before the dragon of Zakul. Only thing I heard when someone mentions a dragon in Star Wars now. Oh, this was before. I don't even know if Matthew Stover saw the Old Republic yet. Yeah, it does come from the Old Republic. I don't think anywhere, no one else has mentioned Zakul before. But yeah. Hi, welcome, Ash. Hi. Let's keep going. His forward screen lit with a topograph of the cruiser's hull. Just ahead lay the trench that Obi-Wan had led the TIE-fighter into. Anakin flipped his starfighter through a razor-sharp wing over, down past the rim. Oh wait, that was a typo. Never mind. The walls of the service trench flashed past him as he streaked for the bridge tower at the far end. From here, he couldn't even see the minuscule slit between its support struts. With 8 vulture droids in pursuit, he'd never pull off a slant up the tower's leading edge as Obi-Wan had. But that was all right. He wasn't planning to. His cockpit comm buzzed. Don't try it, Anakin. It's too tight. Too tight for you, maybe. I'll get through. R2-D2 whistles nervous agreement with Obi-Wan. Easy, R2, Anakin said. We've done this before. Cannon fire blazed past him, impacting on the support struts ahead. Too late to change his mind now. He was committed. He would bring his ship through, or he would die. Right now, strangely, he didn't actually care which. Use the Force, Obi-Wan sounded worried. Think yourself through, and the ship will follow. What do you expect me to do? Close my eyes and whistle? Anakin, that was a muttering. What do you expect me to do? Close my eyes and whistle? Anakin muttered under his breath and then said aloud, Copy that. Thinking now. R2's squeal was as close to terrified as a droid can sound. Glowing letters spidered across Anakin's readout. Abort, abort, abort. Anakin smiled. Wrong thought. Obi-Wan could only stare open-mouthed as Anakin's starfighter snapped onto its side and scraped through the slit with centimeters to spare. He fully expected one of the struts to knock R2's dome off. The vulture droids tried to follow, but they were just a hair too big. When the first two impacted, Obi-Wan triggered his cannons in a downward sweep. The evasion maneuvers pre-programmed into the vulture fighters' droid brains sent them diving away from Obi-Wan's lasers, straight into the fireball expanding from the front of the struts. Obi-Wan looked up to find Anakin soaring straight out from the cruiser with a quick snap roll of victory. Obi-Wan matched his course, without the flourish. I'll give you the first 4, Anakin said over the comm, but the other 8 are mine. Anakin, all right, we'll split them. As they left the cruiser behind, their sensors showed Squad 7 dead ahead. The clone pilots were fully engaged, looping through a dogfight so tight their ion trails looked like a glowing ball of string. Oddball's in trouble. I'm going to help him out. Don't! He's doing his job, we need to do ours. Master, they're getting eaten alive over the... Every one of them would gladly trade his life for Palpatine's. Will you trade Palpatine's life for theirs? No, of course not, but... Anakin, I understand. You want to save everyone, you always do, but you can't. Anakin's voice went tight. Don't remind me. Head for the command ship. Without waiting for a reply, Obi-Wan targeted the command cruiser and shot away at maximum thrust. The cross of burned scar beside Anakin's eye went pale as he turned his starfighter in pursuit. Obi-Wan was right. He almost always was. You can't save everyone. His mother's body, broken and bloody in his arms, her battered eyes struggling to open, the touch of her smashed lips. I knew you would come to me. I miss you so much. That's what it was, to be not quite good enough. It could happen any time, any place, if he was a few minutes late, if he let his attention drift for a single second, if he was a whisker too weak. Any place, any time. But not here, and not now. He forced his mother's face down below the surface of his consciousness. Time to get to work. They flashed through the battle, dodging flak and turbolaser bolts, slipping around cruisers to eclipse themselves from the sensors of droid fighters. They were only a few dozen kilometers from the command cruiser when a pair of tri-fighters whipped across their path, firing on the deflection. Anakin's sensor board lit up and R2-D2 shrilled a warning. Missiles! He wasn't worried for himself. The two on his tail were coming at him in perfect tandem. Missiles lack the sophisticated brains of droid fighters. To keep them from colliding on their inbound vectors, one of them would lock onto his fighter's left drive, the other on his right. A quick snap roll would make those vectors intersect, which they did in a silent blossom of flame. Obi-Wan wasn't so lucky. The pair of missiles locked onto his sublights weren't precisely side by side. A snap roll would be worse than useless. Instead, he fired retros and kicked his dorsal jets to halve his velocity and knock him a few meters planetward. The lead missile overshot and spiraled off into the orbital battle. The trailing missile came close enough to trigger its proximity sensors and detonated in a spray of glowing shrapnel. Obi-Wan's starfighter flew through the debris, and the shrapnel tracked him. Little silver spheres flipped themselves into his path and latched onto the starfighter's skin, then split and sprouted spidery arrays of jointed arms that pried up hull plates, exposing the starfighter's internal works to multiple circular whirls of blade-like ancient mechanical bone saws. This was a problem. My green screen. Hold on. Just take some time. We'll get there in a second. My green screen is dying. Let's quickly, the light changed, I think. That's why. Let's just flip that over. Boop, boop, We're just kind of slowly weeding out the last of the green screen stuff. There we go. Oh, my shirt is not green screening. That's fine. Nice. You know, there's a little bit at the bottom there, but it's okay. All right. Back we go. This was a problem. I'm hit. Obi-Wan sounded more irritated than concerned. I'm hit. I have visual. Anakin swung his starfighter into closer pursuit. Buzz droids. I count 5. Get out of here, Anakin. There's nothing you can do. I'm not leaving you, Master. Cascades of sparks fountained into space from the buzz droid's saws. Anakin, the mission! Get to the command ship! Get the Chancellor! Not without you, Anakin said through his teeth. One of the buzz droids crouched beside the cockpit, silvery arms grappling with R4. Another worked on the starfighter's nose, while a third skittered towards the ventral hydraulics. The last 2 of the aggressive little mechs had spidered to Obi-Wan's left wing, working on that damaged control surface. You can't help me, Obi-Wan still maintained his Jedi calm. They're shutting down the controls. I can fix that. Anakin brought his starfighter into line, only a couple of meters off Obi-Wan's wing. Steady, he muttered. Steady. And triggered a single burst of his right side cannon that blasted the 2 buzz droids into gouts of molten metal, along with most of Obi-Wan's left wing. Anakin said, Whoops. The starfighter bucked hard enough to knock Obi-Wan's skull against the transparasteel canopy. A gust of singing smokes filled the cockpit. Obi-Wan fought the yoke to keep his starfighter out of an uncontrollable tumble. Anakin, that's not helping! You're right. Bad idea. Here, let's try this. Move left and swing under easy. Anakin, you're too close! Wait! Obi-Wan stared in disbelief as Anakin's starfighter edged closer and with a dip of its wing, physically slammed a buzz droid into a smear of metal. The impact jolted Obi-Wan again, pounded a deep streak of dent into his starfighter's hull, and shattered the forward control surface of Anakin's wing. Anakin had forgotten the first principle of combat. Again, as usual. You're going to get us both killed! His atmospheric scrubbers drained smoke from the cockpit, but now the droid on the forward control surface of Obi-Wan's starfighter's right wing had peeled away enough of the hull plates that its jointed saw arms could get deep inside. Sparks flared into space, along with an expanding fountain of gas that instantly crystallized in the hard vacuum. Velocity identical to Obi-Wan's, the shimmering gas hung on his starfighter's nose like a cloud of fog. A blast, Obi-Wan muttered. I can't see. My controls are going. You're doing fine. Stay on my wing. Easier said than done. I have to accelerate out of this. I'm with you. Go. Obi-Wan eased powers to his thrusters, and his starfighter parted the cloud, but new vapor boiled out to replace it as he went. Is that last one still on my nose? R4, can you do anything? The only response he got came from Anakin. That's a negative on R4. Buzz droid got him. It, Obi-Wan corrected automatically. Wait, they attacked R4? Not just R4. One of them jumped over when we hit. Blast, Obi-Wan thought. They were getting smarter. Through a gap torn in the cloud by the curve of his cockpit, Obi-Wan could see R2-D2 grappling with a buzz droid hand to hand. Well, saw arm to saw arm. Even flying blind and nearly out of control through the middle of a space battle, Obi-Wan could not avoid a second of disbelief at the bewildering variety of auxiliary tools and aftermarket behaviors Anakin had tinkered onto his starfighter's astromech. Even beyond the sophisticated upgrades performed by the Royal Engineers of Naboo, the little device was virtually a partner in its own right. R2 saw cut through one of the buzz droid's grapplers, sending the jointed arm flipping lazily off into space. Then it did the same to another. Then a panel opened in R2-D2's side, and its data jack arm stabbed out and smacked the crippled buzz droid right off Anakin's hull. The buzz droid spun aft until it was caught in the blast wash of Anakin's sublights, then blew away faster than even Obi-Wan's eyes could follow. Obi-Wan reflected that the Separatist droids weren't the only ones that were getting smarter. The data jack retreated, and a different panel opened, this time in R2-D2's dome. A claw cable shot from it into the cloud of gas that still billowed from Obi-Wan's right forward wing and pulled back out, dragging a struggling buzz droid. The silver droid twisted and squirmed, and its grapplers took hold of the cable, climbing back along it, saw arms waving, until Anakin popped the starfighter's underjets and R2 cut the cable, and the buzz droid dropped away, tumbling helplessly through the battle. "You know," Obi-Wan said, "I begin to understand why you speak of R2 as though he's a living creature." "Do you?" He could hear Anakin smile. "Don't you mean it?" Yes, of course," he frowned. "Yes, of course, it. Thank it for me, will you?" "Thank him yourself." Yes. "Thanks, R2. The whistle that came back over the comm had a clear flavor of, "You're welcome." Then the last of the fog finally dispersed, and the sky ahead was full of ship. More than 1 kilometer from end to end, the vast command cruiser filled his visual field. At this range, all he could see were savannas of sand-colored hull, studded with turbo laser mounts that lit up space with thunderbolts of disintegrating energy. And that immense ship was getting bigger. Fast. "Anakin, we're going to collide." "That's the plan. Head for the hangar." "That's not—" "I know, first Jedi principle of—" "No, it's not going to work. Not for me." "What?" "My controls are gone. I can't head for anything." "Oh. Well, all right, no problem." No problem?" Then his starfighter clanged as if he'd crashed into a ship-sized gong. Obi-Wan jerked and twisted his head around to find the other starfighter just above his tail. Literally just above. Anakin's left lead control surface was barely a hand span from Obi-Wan's sublight thrusters. Anakin had hit him. On purpose. Then he did it again. Clang! "What are you doing?" "Just giving you—" Anakin's voice came slow, tight with concentration. "A little help with your steering." Obi-Wan shook his head. This was completely impossible. No other pilot would even attempt it. But for Anakin Skywalker, the completely impossible had an eerie way of being merely difficult. He reflected that he should be used to it by now. While these thoughts chased each other aimlessly through his mind, he had been staring bleakly at a blue shimmer of energy filling the yawning hangar bay ahead. Belatedly, he registered what he was looking at. He thought, "Oh, this is bad." "Anakin," Obi-Wan began. He tried rerouting control pods through his yoke. No luck. Anakin drew up and tipped his forward surfaces down behind the sparking scrap that used to be R4. "Anakin, give me just a second, Master." Anakin's voice had gone even tighter, a muffled thump, then another, louder, and a scrape and a squeal of ripping metal. "This isn't quite as easy as it looks." "Anakin!" "What?" "The hangar bay. What about it?" "Have you noticed the shields are still up?" "Really?" "Really!" Not to mention so close that Obi-Wan could practically taste it. "Oh, sorry, I've been busy." Obi-Wan closed his eyes. Reaching into the Force, his mind followed the starfighter's mangled circuitry to locate and activate the sublight engine's manual test board. With a slight push, he triggered a command normally used only in bench tests. Full reverse. The cometary tail of glowing debris shed by his disintegrating starfighter shot past him and evaporated in a cascade of miniature starbursts on contact with the hangar shield, which was exactly what was about to happen to him. The only effect of full reverse from his failing engines was to give him more time to see it coming. Then Anakin's starfighter swooped in front of him, crossing left to right at a steep deflection. Energy flared from his cannons, and the shield emitters at the right side of the hangar door exploded into scrap. The blue shimmer of the bay shield flickered, faded, and vanished just as Obi-Wan came spinning across the threshold and slammed along the deck, trailing sparks and a scream of tortured metal. His entire starfighter, what was left of it, vibrated with the roar of atmosphere howling out from the unshielded bay. Massive blast doors ground together like jaws. Another force touch on the manual test board cut power to his engines, but he couldn't trigger the explosive bolts on his cockpit canopy, and he had a bad feeling that those canopy bolts were the only thing on his craft that weren't about to explode. His lightsaber found his hand, and blue energy flared. One swipe, and the canopy burst away, ripped into space by the hurricane of escaping air. Obi-Wan flipped himself up into the stunningly cold gale and let it blow him tumbling away as the remnants of his battered craft finally exploded. He rode the shockwave while he let the Force right him in the air. He landed, cat-footed on the blackened streak, still hot enough to scorch his boots that his landing had gouged into the deck. The hangar was full of battle droids. His shoulders dropped and his knees bent, and his lightsaber came up to angle in front of his face. There were far too many for him to fight alone, but he didn't mind. At least he was out of that blasted starfighter. Anakin slipped his craft toward the hangar through a fountain of junk and flash-frozen gas. One last touch of the yoke twisted his starfighter through the closing teeth of the blast doors, just as Obi-Wan's canopy went the other way. Obi-Wan's ship was a hunk of glowing scrap, punctuating a long, smoking skid mark. Obi-Wan himself, beard rimed with frost, lightsaber out and flaming, stood in a tightening ring of battle droids. Anakin slewed his starfighter into a landing that scattered droids with a particle blast from his sublight thrusters, and for 1 second he was 9 years old again, behind the controls of a starfighter in the Theed Royal hangar, his first touch of a real ship's cannons blasting battle droids. He'd have done the same thing right here, except that Palpatine was somewhere on this ship. They just might need one of the cannon blasts bouncing around in here could wreck them all. This he'd have to do by hand. One touch blew his canopy, and he sprang from the cockpit, flipping upward to stand on the wing. Battle droids opened fire instantly, and Anakin's lightsaber flashed. R2, locate a computer link. The little droid whistled at him, and Anakin allowed himself a tight smile. Sometimes he thought he could almost understand the droid's electrosonic code. Don't worry about us, find Palpatine. Go on, I'll cover you. R2 popped out of its socket and bounced to the deck. Anakin jumped ahead of it into a cascade of blaster fire and let the Force direct his blade. Battle droids began to spark and collapse. Get to that link! Anakin had to shout above the whine of blasters and the roar of exploding droids. Exploding? Yes, exploding droids. I'm going for Obi-Wan. No need. Anakin whirled to find Obi-Wan right behind him, in the act of slicing neatly through the brain case of a battle droid. I appreciate the thought, Anakin, the Jedi Master said with a gentle smile, but I've already come for you. This, then, is Obi-Wan and Anakin. They are closer than friends, closer than brothers. Though Obi-Wan is 16 standard years Anakin's elder, they have become men together. Neither can imagine life without the other. The war has forged their two lives into one. The war that has done this is not the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan and Anakin's war began on Naboo, when Qui-Gon Jinn died at the hand of a Sith Lord. Master and Padawan and Jedi Knights together, they have fought this war for 13 years. Their war is their life, and their life is a weapon. Say what you will about the wisdom of ancient Master Yoda, the deadly skill of grim Mace Windu, the courage of Ki-Adi-Mundi, or the subtle wiles of Shakti. The greatness of all these Jedi is unquestioned, but it pales next to the legend that has grown around Kenobi and Skywalker. They stand alone. Together they are unstoppable, unbeatable. They are the ultimate go-to guys of the Jedi Order. When the good guys absolutely, positively have to win, the call goes out. Obi-Wan and Anakin always answer. Whether Obi-Wan's legendary cleverness might beat Anakin's raw power straight up, no rules, is the subject of schoolyard fistfight, creche pool wriggle matches, and pod chamber stink wars across the Republic. These struggles always end somehow, with the combatants on both sides admitting that it doesn't matter. Anakin and Obi-Wan would never fight each other. They couldn't. They're a team. They're the team. And both of them are sure they always will be. Pain. I'm in pain. Closer than brothers and become men together. No, I will not ship Anakin and Obi-Wan together. Stop it right now. Off to jail with you. Go away. Oh, man. And that is chapter 1. We move off to chapter 2, Dooku. In fact, I think... Hold on. Jeez, we've read a lot. Wow, 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 wow. This is the the prologue. It's part 1 and then 1. So we're still on part 1 and now we're at 2. We read we've read 35 pages so far. Excellent. Very, very cool. Oh, man. That's awesome. Thank you all for coming along with the ride. It's now 11:35. We've been going for about an hour 04. I'm going to keep going because I love reading this. We're going to keep going with the Dooku thing, but I am going to quickly grab some more water for myself so I can refresh my voice. And yeah, feel free to grab some yourself. Take a small break, and I'll just be a minute. Don't worry too much. I'll be right back. It's Good For You by THBD. 11:38 on this wonderful Wednesday morning in South Korea. We're about to head back to our continuation of reading. We're going to get straight back into it. I just got myself a drink. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. And let's keep going, shall we? Oh. Would you look at that? My green screen is fucked up again. It's that side, isn't it, this time? Yeah. There's, like, not a lot of light coming onto it, which is upsetting. Let's see what we can do about this, shall we? Let's just make that nothing for now. Yeah, there's that. I need to iron that out, I think. I'm so lazy to do it, though. I really don't want to. But it's fine. Let's see if we can go for that one, maybe. See if that exists there. Yeah, but then we're going to cut out that part. Look. It's me. Wait, there we go. So thank you for joining. Oh, this is so cool. I can be like a little... This is actually really interesting. Wait. I can just be a floating head. Look at that. With a hole in. Yo, why did it block out my shirt and the microphone? This is so cool. Oh, man. Oh, my forehead disappears if I get too close. This is amazing. Anyway, we're reading. I'm now a floating head in space. Excellent. This is so cool. There we go. There we go. Let's do that again, shall we? Yep. This is good. 65 should do that. Yep. Okay. Right. And we're back. All right. Let's keep going with the reading. We start with part 2 of part 1. And this one is entitled Dooku. So far, we've been through the Battle of Coruscant, in space at least. Now Anakin and Obi-Wan are on the Invisible Hand, General Grievous's flagship, and they're about to try and rescue the Chancellor. But they've got to get through a few people first, so we'll see how they do. What I find really interesting about this book so far, goodness, is the way that they straight up change some of the way that things happen in the movie. I really enjoy the fact that I actually think this is a cool thing, that we're getting like a different perspective on it. Not just a different perspective, but like an entirely different retelling of the events. Because the author is like doing the author is doing things completely differently. So like he says he like there are lots of events like the buzz droids, for example, that go completely differently in the movies, but he kind of tweaks it and does another way. And of course, the most obvious way that that things are changed in the book, in the novelization, is the dialogue. The fact that the dialogue is not the same, which I think is also cool, because maybe it happened in the movie and it was like we just can't hear it because we were only privy to the stuff that was said. So yeah, I really like that option that we have, that we can get access to like more dialogue. And it does make sense that they would say those sorts of things. So yeah. Also, anyone kind of stepping in to fix the dialogue writing of the prequel trilogy is a success in my book. Right, here we go. Chapter 2, Dooku. The storm of blaster fire ricocheting through the hangar base suddenly ceased. Clusters of battle droids withdrew behind ships and slipped out hatchways. Obi-Wan's familiar grimace showed past his blade as he let it shrink away. I hate it when they do that. Anakin's lightsaber was already back on his belt. When they do what? Disengage and fall back for no reason. There's always a reason, Master. Obi-Wan nodded. That's why I hate it. Anakin looked at the litter of smoking droid parts scattered throughout the hangar bay, shrugged, and snugged his black glove. R2, where's the Chancellor? The little droid's data jack rotated in the wall socket. Its hollow projector eye swiveled, and the blue scanning laser built a ghostly image near Anakin's boot. Palpatine shackled into a large swivel chair. Even in the tiny translucent blur, he looked exhausted and in pain, but alive. Anakin's heart thumped once painfully against his ribs. He wasn't too late. Not this time. He dropped to one knee and squinted at the image. Palpatine looked as if he'd aged 10 years since Anakin had last seen him. Muscle bulged along the young Jedi's jaw. If Grievous had hurt the Chancellor, had so much as touched him. The hand of jointed durasteel inside his black glove clenched so hard that electronic feedback made his shoulder ache. Obi-Wan spoke from over that shoulder. Do you have a location? The image rippled and twisted into a schematic map of the cruiser. Far up at the top of the conning spire, R2 showed a pulse of brighter blue. In the General's quarters, Obi-Wan scowled. Any sign of Grievous himself? The pulsar shifted to the cruiser's bridge. And guards? The hollow image rippled again and transformed into an image of the cruiser's general's quarters once more. Palpatine appeared to be alone. The chair sat in the center of an arc of empty floor, facing a huge, curved viewing wall. Anakin muttered. That doesn't make sense. Of course it does. It's a trap. Anakin barely heard him. He stared down at his black-gloved fist. He opened his fist, closed it, opened it again. The ache from his shoulder flowed down to the middle of his bicep and didn't stop. His elbow sizzled, and his forearm, his wrist had been packed with red-hot gravel, and his hand was on fire. But it wasn't his hand, or his wrist, or his forearm, or his elbow. It was a creation of jointed durosteel and electro drivers. Anakin? Anakin's lips drew back from his teeth. It hurts. What, your replacement arm? When did you have it equipped with pain sensors? I didn't. That's the point. The pain is in your mind, Anakin. No. Anakin's heart froze over. His voice went cold as space. I can feel him. Him? Dooku. He's here. Here on this ship. Ah, Obi-Wan nodded. I'm sure he is. You knew? I guessed. Do you think Grievous couldn't have found Palpatine's beacon? It can hardly be accident that through all the ECM, the Chancellor's homing signal was in the clear. This is a trap. A Jedi trap. Obi-Wan laid a warm hand upon Anakin's shoulder, and his face was as grim as Anakin had ever seen it. Possibly a trap set for us. Personally. Anakin's jaw tightened. You're thinking of how he tried to recruit you on Geonosis, before he sent you down for execution. It's not impossible that we will again face that choice. It's not a choice. Anakin rose. His durasteel clenched and stayed that way, a centimeter from his lightsaber. Let him ask. My answer is right here on my belt. Be mindful, Anakin. The Chancellor's safety is our only priority. Yes. Yes, of course. The ice in Anakin's chest thawed. All right, it's a trap. Next move? Obi-Wan allowed himself a bit of a smile of his own as he headed for the nearest exit from the hangar bay. Same as always, my young friend. We spring it. I can work with this plan. Anakin turned to his astromech. You stay here, R2. The little droid interrupted him with a wheedling whir. No arguments. Stay. I mean it. R2-D2's whistling reply had a distinctly sulky tone. Listen, R2. Someone has to maintain computer contact. Do you see a data jack anywhere on me? The droid seemed to acquiesce, but not before weeping what sounded like it might have been a suggestion where to look. Jesus. Obi, why is R2 so savage? Waiting by the open hatchway, Obi-Wan shook his head. Honestly, the way you talk to that thing. Anakin started towards him. Careful, Master, you'll hurt his feelings. He stopped in his tracks, a curious look on his face, as if he was trying to frown and to smile at the same time. Anakin? Oh. He didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He was looking at an image inside his head. Not an image. A reality. A memory of something that hadn't happened yet. He saw Count Dooku on his knees. He saw lightsabers crossed at the Count's throat. Clouds lifted from his heart. Clouds of Jabim. Of Argonar, of Camino, of even the Tuscan camp. For the first time in too many years he felt young as he really was. Young and free and full of light. Master. His voice seemed to be coming from someone else. Someone who hadn't seen what he'd seen. Hadn't done what he'd done. Master, right here. Right now. You and I. Yes? He blinked. I think we're about to win the war. Oi. The vast semi-sphere of the view wall bloomed with battle. Sophisticated sensor algorithms compressed of the combat that sprawled throughout the galactic capital's orbit to a view the naked eye could enjoy. Cruisers hundreds of kilometers apart, exchanging fire at near light speed, appeared to be practically hull to hull, joined by pulsing cables of flame. Turbo laser blasts became swift shafts of light that shattered into prismatic splinters against shields, or bloomed into miniature supernova that swallowed ships whole. The invisible gnat clouds of starfighter dogfights became a gleaming dance of shadow moths at the end of Coruscant's brief spring. Within that immense curve of computer-filled carnage, the only furnishing was one lone chair, centered in an expanse of empty floor. This was called the General's Chair, just as this apartment on top of the flagship's conning spire was called the General's Quarters. With his back to that chair, and to the man shackled within it, hands folded behind him, beneath his cloak of silken armor weave, stood Count Dooku. Stood Darth Tyrannus, Lord of the Sith. He looked upon his master's handiwork, and it was good. More than good. It was magnificent. This is a religious reference, by the way, showing that Dooku is actually seeing, like, he looked upon the works and it was all good. Like, that's in the Bible, so that's very interesting. Even the occasional tremor of the deck beneath his boots, as the entire ship shuddered under enemy torpedo and turbolaser blasts, felt to him like applause. Behind him sounded the initiating hum of the intraship holocom, which crackled into a voice both electronic and oddly expressive, as though a man spoke through a droid's electrosonic vocabulator. Okay, I have to do Grievous's voice. Lord Tyrannus, Kenobi and Skywalker have arrived. Yes, Dooku had felt them both in the Force. Drive them toward me. My lord, I must express once more my objections. Dooku turned. From his commanding height, he stared down at the blue-scanned, hollow image of Invisible Hand's commander. Your objections have been noted already, General. Leave the Jedi to me. But driving them to you also sends them directly toward the Chancellor himself. Why does he remain on this ship at all? He should be hidden. He should be guarded. We should have had him out-system hours ago. Matters are so, Count Dooku said, because Lord Sidious wishes them so. Should you desire to press your objections, please feel at liberty to take them up with him. I don't believe that will be necessary. Very well, then. Confine your efforts to preventing support troops from boarding. Without their pet clones to back them up, no Jedi is a danger to me. The deck shuddered again, more sharply, followed by a sudden shift in the vector of the cruiser's artificial gravity that would have sent a lesser man stumbling. With the Force to maintain the dignified solidity of his posture, the effect on Dooku was confined to the lift of one eyebrow. And may I suggest that you devote some attention to protecting this ship? Having it destroyed with both you and me aboard might put something of a cramp in the war effort, don't you think? It is already being done, my lord. Does my lord wish to observe the progress of the Jedi? I can feed the security monitors onto this channel. Thank you, General. That will be welcome. Gracious as ever, my lord. Grievous out. It's terrible. I can use the voice. I can use a voice modulator to do it, actually. Count Dooku allowed himself a near-invisible smile. His inviolable courtesy, the hallmark of a true aristocrat, was effortless, yet somehow it seemed always to impress the common rabble. Excuse me. As well as those with the intellect of common rabble, regardless of accomplishment or station, like, for example, that repulsive cyborg Grievous. He sighed. Grievous had his uses. Not only was he an able field commander, but he would soon make a marvelous scapegoat upon whom to hang every atrocity of this sadly necessary war. Someone had to take that particular fall, and Grievous was just the creature for the job. It certainly would not be Dooku. This was, in fact, one purpose of the cataclysmic battle outside, but not the only one. The blue-scanned image before him now became miniatures of Kenobi and Skywalker as he had seen them so many times before, shoulder to shoulder, lightsabers whirling as they enthusiastically dismantled droid after droid after droid, feeling as if they were winning, while in truth, they were being chivied exactly where the Lords of the Sith wanted them to go. Such children they were. Dooku shook his head. It was almost too easy. Right, now this. Once more, we have a character analysis again, a character introduction this time. Count Dooku. Incredible. Love, 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 love. I really want to try and do a Grievous voice mod for this read. I wonder if I can start one. I don't think we hear Grievous again for the rest of this bit before I leave, so I'll do it again next time. Right. Oh, let's see here. Right, let's continue then. This is Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, Count of Serena. Once a great Jedi Master, now an even greater Lord of the Sith, Dooku is a dark colossus bestriding the galaxy. Nemesis of the corrupt Republic, Oriflamme of the principled Confederacy of Independent Systems, he is the very personification of shock and awe. He was one of the most respected and powerful Jedi in the Order's 25,000-year history, yet at the age of 70, Dooku's principles would no longer allow him to serve a republic in which political power was for sale to the highest bidder. He'd said farewell to his former Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn, now a legendary master in his own right. He'd said farewell to his close friends on the Jedi Council, Mace Windu and the ancient Master Yoda. He'd said farewell to the Jedi Order itself. He is numbered among the lost, the Jedi who renounced their fealty to the Order and resigned their commissions of Jedi knighthood in service of ideals higher than even the Order itself professed. The Lost 20, as they have been known since Dooku joined their number, are remembered with both honor and regret among the Jedi. Their images, sculpted from bronzium, stand enshrined in the temple archives. These bronzium images serve as melancholy reminders that some Jedi have needs the Order cannot satisfy. Dooku had retired to his family estate, the planetary system of Sereno. Assuming his hereditary title as its count made him one of the wealthiest beings in the galaxy. Amid the unabashed corruption endemic to the Republic, his immense wealth could have bought the allegiance of any given number of senators. He could, perhaps, have bought control of the Republic itself. But a man of such heritage, such principle, could never stoop to be a lord of a garbage heap, chief of a horde of scavengers squabbling over scraps. The Republic to him was nothing more than this. Instead, he used all the great power of his family fortune and the vastly greater power of his unquestioned integrity to begin the cleansing of the galaxy from the fester of this so-called democracy. He is the icon of the separatist movement, its public face. He is to the Confederacy of Independent Systems what Palpatine is to the Republic, the living symbol of the justice of its cause. This is the public story. This is the story that even Dooku, in his weaker moments, almost believes. The truth is more complicated. Dooku is different. He doesn't remember quite when he discovered this. It may have been when he was a young Padawan, betrayed by another learner who'd claimed to be his friend. Lorian Nod had said it to his face. "You don't know what friendship is." And he didn't. He had been angry, certainly, furious that his reputation had been put at risk. And he'd been angry at himself for his error in judgment. trusting as an ally one who was in fact an enemy. The most astonishing part of the whole affair had been that even after turning on him before the Jedi, the other boy had expected him to participate in a lie in the name of their friendship. It had all been so preposterous that he hadn't known how to reply. In fact, he has never been entirely sure what beings mean when they speak of friendship. Love, hate, joy, anger, even when he can feel the energy of these emotions in others, they translate in his perception to other kinds of feelings, the kinds that make sense. Jealousy, he understands, and possessiveness, he is fierce when any being encroaches on what is rightfully his. Intolerance, at the intractability of the universe, and at the undisciplined lives of its inhabitants. This is his normal state. Spite is a recreation. He takes considerable pleasure from the suffering of his enemies. Pride is a virtue in an aristocrat, and indignation his inalienable right. When any dare to impugn his integrity, his honor, or his rightful place atop the natural hierarchy of authority. And moral outrage makes perfect sense to him when the incorrigibly untidy affairs of ordinary beings refuse to conform to the plainly obvious structure of how society ought to be. He is entirely incapable of caring what any given creature might feel for him. He cares only what that creature might do for him, or to him. Very possibly, he is what he is because other beings just aren't very interesting, or even, in a sense, entirely real. For Dooku, other beings are mostly abstractions, simple schematic sketches who fall into two essential categories. The first category is assets, beings who can be used to serve his various interests, such as, for most of his life, and to some extent even now, the Jedi, particularly Mace Windu and Yoda, both of whom had regarded him as their friend for so long that it had effectively blinded them to the truth of his activities. And of course, for now, the Trade Federation and the Intergalactic Banking Clan, the Techno-Union, the Corporate Alliance, and the Weapon Lords of Geonosis, and even the common rabble of the galaxy, who exist largely to provide an audience of sufficient size to do justice to his grandeur. The other category is threats. In this second set, he numbers every sentient being he cannot include in the first. There is no third category. Someday, there may not even be a second. Being considered a threat by Count Dooku is a death sentence. A death sentence he plans to pronounce, for example, on his current allies, the heads of the aforementioned Trade Federation, Intergalactic Banking Clan, Techno-Union, Corporate Alliance, and Geonosian Weaponeers. Treachery is the way of the Sith. Count Dooku watched with clinical distaste as the blue-scanned images of Kenobi and Skywalker engaged in a preposterous fast chase, pursued by destroyer droids into and out of turbolift pods that shot upward and downward and even sideways. "It will be," he said slowly, meditatively, as though he spoke only to himself, "an embarrassment to be captured by him." The voice that answered him was so familiar that sometimes his very thoughts spoke in it, instead of in his own. "An embarrassment you can survive, Lord Tyrannus. After all, he is the greatest Jedi alive, is he not? And we have not ensured that all the galaxy shares this opinion." "Quite so, my master. Quite so." Again, Dooku sighed. Today he felt every hour of his 83 years. "It is fatiguing to play the villain for so long, master. I find myself looking forward to an honorable captivity." A captivity that would allow him to sit out the rest of the war in comfort. A captivity that would allow him to forswear his former allegiances, when he would conveniently appear to finally discover the true intent of the separatists' crimes against civilization, and bind himself to the new government with his reputation for integrity and idealism fully intact. The new government. This had been their star of destiny for lo these many years. A government clean, pure, direct. None of the messy scramble for the favor of ignorant rabble and subhuman creatures that make up the republic he so despised. The government he would serve would be authority personified. Human authority. It was no accident that the primary powers of the Confederacy of Independent Systems were Nemoidian, Skakoan, Quarren and Aqualish, Moon and Gossam, Seirmirthian and Kurivar and Geonosian. At war's end, the aliens would be crushed, stripped of all they possessed, and their systems and their wealth would be given into the hands of the only beings who could be trusted with them. Human beings. Dooku would serve an empire of man. And he would serve it only as he could, as he was born to. He would smash the Jedi Order to create it anew, not shackled by the corrupt, narcissistic, shabby little beings who call themselves politicians, but free, to bring true authority and true peace to a galaxy that so badly needed both. An order that would not negotiate, would not mediate, an order that would enforce. The survivors of the Jedi would become the Sith army, the fist of the Empire. And that fist would become a power beyond any Jedi's darkest dreams. The Jedi were not the only users of the Force in the galaxy. From Hapes to Harun Kal, from Kifu to Dathomir, powerful Force-capable humans and near-humans had long refused to surrender their children to lifelong bound servitude in the Jedi Order. They would not so refuse the Sith army. They would not have the choice. Dooku frowned down at the hollow image. Kenobi and Skywalker were going through more low-comedy business with another bulky turbolift. Possibly Grievous having some fun with the shaft controls, while battle droids haplessly pursued. Really, it was all so undignified. May I suggest, Master, that we give Kenobi one last chance? The support of a Jedi of his integrity would be invaluable in establishing the political legitimacy of our empire. Ah, yes. Kenobi. His master's voice went silken. You have long been interested in Kenobi, haven't you? Of course. His master was my Padawan. In a sense, he's practically my grandson. He is too old, too indoctrinated, irretrievably poisoned by Jedi fables. We established that on Geonosis, did we not? In his mind, he serves the Force itself. Reality is nothing in the face of such conviction. Dooku sighed. He should, he supposed, have no difficulty with this, having ordered the Jedi Master's death once already. True enough, I suppose. How fortunate we are that I never labored under any such illusions. Kenobi must die. Today. At your hand. His death may be the code key of the final lock that will seal Skywalker to us forever. Dooku understood. Not only would the death of his mentor tip Skywalker's already unstable emotional balance down the darkest of slopes, but it would also remove the greatest obstacle to Skywalker's successful conversion. As long as Kenobi was alive, Skywalker would never be securely in the camp of the Sith. Kenobi's unshakable faith in the values of the Jedi would keep the Jedi blindfold on Skywalker's eyes and the Jedi shackles on the young man's true power. Still, though, Dooku had some reservations. This had all come about too quickly. Had Sidious thought through the implications of this operation? But I must ask, my master, is Skywalker truly the man we want? He is powerful. potentially more powerful than even myself. Which is precisely, Dooku said meditatively, why it might be best if I were to kill him instead. Are you so certain that you can? Please, of what use is power unstructured by discipline? The boy is as much a danger to himself as he is to his enemies. And that mechanical arm. Dooku's lip curled with cultivated distaste. Revolting. Then perhaps you should have spared his real arm. A gentleman would have learned to fight one-handed. Dooku flicked a dismissive wave. He's no longer even entirely human. With Grievous, the use of these biodroid devices is almost forgivable. He was such a disgusting creature already that his mechanical parts are clearly an improvement. But a blend of droid and human? Appalling. The depths of bad taste. How are we to justify associating with him? How fortunate I am, the silk in his master's voice softened further, to have an apprentice who feels it is appropriate to lecture me. Dooku lifted an eyebrow. I have overstepped, my master, he said with his customary grace. I am only observing, not arguing. Not at all. Skywalker's arm makes him, for our purposes, even better. It is the permanent symbol of the sacrifices he has made in the name of peace and justice. It is a badge of heroism that he must publicly wear for the rest of his life. No one can ever look at him and doubt his honor, his courage, his integrity. He is perfect, just as he is. Perfect. The only question that remains is whether he is capable of transcending the artificial limitations of his Jedi indoctrination. And that, my Lord Count, is precisely what today's operation is designed to discover. Dooku could not argue. Not only had the Dark Lord introduced Dooku to realms of power beyond his most spectacular fantasies, but Sidious was also a political manipulator so subtle that his abilities might be considered to dwarf even the power of the dark side itself. It was said that whenever the Force closes a hatch, it opens a viewport, and every viewport that had so much as cracked in this past 13 standard years had found a Dark Lord of the Sith already at the rim, peering in, calculating how best to slip through. Improving upon his master's plan was near to impossible. His own idea of substituting Kenobi for Skywalker, he had to admit, was only the product of a certain misplaced sentimentality. Skywalker was almost certainly the man for the job. He should be. Darth Sidious had spent a considerable number of years making him so. Today's test would remove the almost. He had no doubt that Skywalker would fall. Dooku understood that this was more than a test for Skywalker. Though Sidious had never said so directly, Dooku was certain that he himself was being tested as well. Success today would show his master that he was worthy of the mantle of mastery himself. By the end of the coming battle, he would have initiated Skywalker into the manifold glories of the dark side, just as Sidious had initiated him. He gave no thought to failure. Why should he? But, forgive me, Master, but Kenobi having fallen to my blade, are you certain Skywalker will ever accept my orders? You must admit that his biography offers little confidence that he is capable of obedience at all. Skywalker's power brings with it more than mere obedience. It brings creativity and luck. We need never concern ourselves with the sort of instruction that Grievous, for example, requires. Even the blind fools on the Jedi Council see clearly enough to understand this. Even they no longer try to tell him how. They merely tell him what. And he finds a way. He always has. Dooku nodded. For the first time since Sidious had revealed the true subtlety of this masterpiece, Dooku allowed himself to relax enough to imagine the outcome. With his heroic capture of Count Dooku, Anakin Skywalker will become the ultimate hero, the greatest hero in the history of the Republic, perhaps of the Jedi Order itself. The loss of his beloved partner will add just exactly the correct spice of tragedy to give melancholy weight to his every word. When he gives his holonet interviews denouncing the Senate's corruption as impeding the war effort, when he delicately, oh so delicately, not to mention reluctantly, insinuates that corruption in the Jedi Order prolonged the war as well. When he announces the creation of a new order of Force-using warriors, he will be the perfect commanding general for the Sith army. Dooku could only shake his head in awe. And to think that only days earlier the Jedi had seemed so close to uncovering, even destroying all he and his master had worked for. But he should never have feared. His master never lost. He would never lose. He was the definition of unbeatable. How can one defeat an enemy one thinks is a friend? And now, with a single brilliant stroke, his master would turn the Jedi Order back upon itself like an Ithrani Ouroboros devouring its own tail. This was the day, the hour. The death of Obi-Wan Kenobi would be the death of the Republic. Today would see the birth of the Empire. Tyrannus, are you well? Am I? Dooku realized that his eyes had misted. Yes, my master, I am beyond well. Today the climax, the grand finale of the culmination of all your decades of work. I find myself somewhat overcome. Compose yourself, Tyrannus. Kenobi and Skywalker are nearly at the door. Play your part, my apprentice, and the galaxy is ours. Dooku straightened, and for the first time looked his master in the eyes. Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith, sat in the general's chair, shackled to it at the wrist and ankle. Dooku bowed to him. Thank you, Chancellor. Palpatine of Naboo, Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, replied. Withdraw. They are here. And that's a good spot to leave off. Whoa. That was great. I'm going to say right now that about this Dooku chapter. First of all, Dooku's an amazing character. Very, very interesting. And, but the one thing I want to say about this chapter is for those of us who know how the context of the movie goes, we know what's about to happen. We know Dooku is about to lose. But this internal belief of him, of how the plan is going to go, is incredibly interesting and, above all, really sad. Because it's so well written how poetically wrong Dooku is. And yet, it's so poetic that he who believes that he is the most right is the most wrong. He is so unbelievably betrayed. And he is the one who believes that he is the exception to all of the betrayal that Darth Sidious has imposed on the galaxy. And yet, he is, in reality, the one who will be the most heavily betrayed by Darth Sidious. Because Darth Sidious has no plans for his capture, as we know in the movie. He has no plans of bringing Count Dooku into the New World Order once the Republic has fallen. Count Dooku, like everyone else for Darth Sidious, is a means to an end. Count Dooku is a means to Anakin Skywalker, and Anakin Skywalker is a means to Palpatine's greater grip on power. It is all about him. And the fact that Dooku was so blind that he could be this close to Palpatine, see all of this betrayal, and somehow believe that he was above it is his true failing. It's so interesting. So interesting. What I love is he even says it himself, but he never applies it to himself. He's so proud and so dignified that he, like this line here is perfect. He says, "How can one defeat an enemy one thinks is a friend?" He sees this in Palpatine as well. He believes that Palpatine is his master. He's his friend. It's a mentor. He does not harbor any betrayal or ill wishes towards his master at all. And to me, that is what makes me believe that Dooku never truly understood the way of the Sith. And yet he says treachery is the way of the Sith in the beginning of the chapter, which shows that he understands, but he doesn't apply it to himself. And that is the true failing of a Sith, in my opinion. A Sith is supposed to expect that betrayal is going to come from you at any angle, at any time. You can never rest, particularly from your master, particularly from your apprentice. The people closest to you are the ones who know the most about you. And in the Sith, the more you know about someone, the more you can use it against them, betray them, and take their power for your own. That is the way of the Sith. And it is pretty tragic for me that Dooku never realized that. But yeah, fantastic so far. I love this book. I love the way it's written. I love the internal monologue it has to Dooku. What are your thoughts? Let me know what you think. If you're watching the VOD after the stream has been done, let me know what you think in YouTube comments as well. They're there for a reason. And if you're here right now, if you're watching live, let me know what you think of the chapter so far. I honestly, as Dooku being like my favorite Sith Lord, I love his character. I think it's so interesting, and this little chapter for me, and the what is to come, the actual battle and the way that it's portrayed is fantastic. Especially because what we've seen is we've seen so far, it's been from Obi-Wan's perspective, then Anakin's perspective, and now Dooku's perspective. We have seen the Battle of Coruscant in the movie from pretty much Anakin's perspective, right? And we kind of see him as the main character. What part 2 of part 1 has done was section 2, I guess. What section 2 of part 1 has done is create Dooku as the main character here, because he is the one upon whom all of this rests. He's like a turning point for the whole war, for Anakin, for Palpatine, for everyone. And he is about to experience the greatest of betrayals from the person that he thought would be the only one who did not suffer under the betrayal of his master. That didn't really make sense, but you understand what I'm trying to say. This chapter, what is cool about this chapter that is to come, the fight, I did read this far when I read the book, is that this fight is told from the perspective of Dooku, rather than the perspective of Anakin or Obi-Wan. I think partially Anakin and Obi-Wan, but when the fight actually happens, it's Dooku's perspective, and it's so interesting. I love novelizations of movies. They paint so much more of a picture than we could ever see in the movies. They show us internal monologues. It's fantastic. Really cool. It is 12:23 on the Everything GM broadcast. If you are here live, thank you very much for being here. If you're watching the video after the live is finished, thank you very much for doing that. If you want to know about who I am and everything that I do, you can be here and listen to it. Or you can go down below and check out all the links. Join the Discord server, have some fun with me. Go to my main page and check out the services that I offer. Everything from consultations to audiobook readings, just like the one you heard now. With that said, we're going to take another quick break. I'm going to be about 5 minutes. Grab a snack, hydrate again, make sure you got some water. It's good for you. And when we come back, we'll be talking about some media, I guess. And I don't really have much to talk about today when it comes to media. We're going to look at, like, I don't know, what trailers are coming out lately or anything like that. And, yeah, we'll see what's trending on Twitter. Let's just have a chat. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
for this feeling I live when you're close. A shadow on the ceiling, a hanging on the door, still hanging on a feeling. You're breathing on the phone, and you like how your dinner makes my mind run. Too hard to resist it. I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Hand rush, I fall to the floor, our hands touch. I can't feel the weight, and I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Oh, oh, oh. I can't feel the weight, and hand rush, I fall to the floor, our hands touch. I can't feel the weight, and I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Why go this evening? I think that you already know. A shadow on the ceiling, a hanging on the door, still hanging on a feeling. You're breathing on the phone, and you like how your dinner makes my mind run. Too hard to resist it. I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Hand rush, I fall to the floor, our hands touch. I can't feel the weight, and I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Hand rush, I fall to the floor, our hands touch. I can't feel the weight, and I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Oh, oh, oh. I can't feel the weight, and oh, oh, oh. Hand rush, I can't feel the weight, and oh, oh, oh. Hand rush, I fall to the floor, our hands touch. I can't feel the weight, and I want you under my skin like a bad burn, bad burn. Oh, oh, oh.
It's Canyon by Relipso. Moving straight into Higher by Charles Park. Hope everyone's doing everyone's having a good time. We're back. Right. I want to just check if... Let's see if people are still live. Oh, you're still alive. Okay, cool. If you're here and you don't want to chat about media stuff, I mean, we're just going to chill on Twitter, I guess. There's nothing that I have planned for the stream, unless a viewer decides to request something. Because lately, I haven't actually been watching a lot of stuff, except for Star Wars The Clone Wars, honestly, because I've been busy with job applications and stuff like that, so this might be a slightly shorter end to the stream, but if there's anything that you want me to talk about media-wise, we can have a look. If not, I'll just we'll just browse through Twitter. Let's see. Oh, this is a pretty good place to start. Let's do this. So I'm on my Twitter, and I immediately found one of my friends responding, who's currently streaming right now. It's the one I was talking about. And they say here, so I was talking about. Let's go to my tweet first. Let's see. Here we go. So I've seen a lot of discourse around Order 66 exhaustion in the Star Wars fandom. Yes, we talked about this yesterday. We talked about how we've seen Order 66 in a ton of different ways, and a ton of different examples of it. And obviously, it's based around the slaughter of the Jedi and the fall of the Republic. So it's incredibly tragic and filled with trauma, and a lot of people are feeling a little bit exhausted from seeing all of that. And to that I say, please don't forget, I've added something else onto this opinion, by the way. The first thing I'll say is, please don't forget that Order 66 is one of the single greatest moments of impact in the Star Wars galaxy ever. Like, in all the Star Wars history, Legends and canon, Order 66 is one of the biggest, because it was the first time, I believe, in galactic history that the Republic was entirely supplanted by a galactic empire. The Empire never took control until Order 66. And I think that's what makes it so impactful. So we need to remember that. But I've added something else onto it. And this actually comes from someone else. I'm going to quickly go back to something I retweeted earlier, and I'm going to read it out for you, and we'll just understand this because it's so important. Here. Just one more thing, and I'm going to let this go for real. Please try to remember that Mandalorian, as the one we're probably going to... Mandalorian Season 3 is the show we're going to see more Order 66 in. Why? Because Grogu is a part of Order 66. Grogu / Baby Yoda was a Padawan, a youngling at the temple when Order 66 happened. And he was taken from the temple by someone. Someone took him away. We don't know if he was rescued or if he was captured. I think he was rescued, but we'll see. And so we have to see another memory of Order 66. I get that. But then, let's see here. This person says, please try to remember that Mandalorian is the Baby Yoda show for a huge number of people. Many who haven't seen Clone Wars, haven't seen Rebels, these flashbacks are necessary to establish context for them. I agree 100%. The first galactic... Oh, wait, no, I have to say it properly. The first galactic Empire! Palpatine, Papa Palp said it himself. Empires have always existed, but a galaxy dominating one never. Yeah, absolutely. And this is exactly the case why I'm fine with seeing more like varied takes on Order 66. It's not about the trauma for me. It's about the perspective of the character who's experiencing it. So when we see Order 66 in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, we see it's from Reva's perspective. When we see it here in Mandalorian, it'll be from Grogu's perspective. And it's all about creating more context for the character. And then this person said it amazingly. Because it's so important to know that we are the ones who watch all of it. But there are so many people who haven't seen all the shows, who haven't seen all the movies, who are coming into the show because they love Mandalorian. They need that context. They need to imagine if you've only seen the movies and Mandalorian. There are lots of people who are like that. I mean, I would say maybe those people should watch the Clone Wars, but but maybe they have a job. Maybe they're super busy and they can't get around to it, like I do with lots of other stuff. I haven't got around to the Bad Batch yet, although that's probably because it hasn't come out on Disney Plus Korea yet. Thank you, Disney. Thank you very much. Anyway, so or at least Korean ISPs, I think, or whatever contract they're doing that allows them to bring out Star Wars like 3 weeks later in Korea than it does in the rest of the world. What gives? Anyway, it's so important to know that imagine if you are one of those people who's only seen the movies and then The Mandalorian. You need that context of Order 66. So yes, it's the pivotal moment of Star Wars. It's in the Star Wars canon, definitely. Order 66 is the pivotal moment of Star Wars. And it's just it's undeniable. So I do think that there is merit in having it here. And then I tweeted about this. And then my friend replies, considering both the exhaustion and the impactful moment, can we see more non-Jedi effects of the transition, like the increase in travel security, police brutality that we saw in Bad Batch 1? Yes, I would like to see this. I would like to see the impacts as well. I think what I'm gonna... Yeah, I'll reply to this. I would like to see this too. But I think... Yeah, so this is less a counter and more of just an expansion on what I said. Can we see more non-Jedi effects of the transition? I 100% would love to see more grassroots consequences. But in the context of The Mandalorian, however, Grogu... the audience needs, or rather, Grogu comes with, Grogu is obviously not that. Is not, how should I put this? In the context of The Mandalorian, Grogu's story is, we cannot see Grogu's story unfold without going back to Order 66 at least one more time. Without going back to Order 66 in the Jedi Temple at least one more time. And I think it's really important to remember that the second part, which I've developed from this other creator on Twitter. So thank you very much for that. I actually follow them, and they give some really cool takes about Star Wars. And that one was one of the clearest heads I've seen for this discourse as well. I see a lot of people get really angry about it, which is kind of like, Order 66 is trending. Incredible. Wow. All right, let's do it. Why is Order 66 trending? Here we go. All right, so I feel like the Order 66 discussion is going to be the topic this week in the fandom. It seems to be. I'm going to sleep on it. Some folks I respect a lot have provided fair and balanced perspectives on why we still need Order 66, and while in this moment it's hard for me to agree, I want to sit with why. Okay, well, let's unpack that. Why would it be hard for a person to agree that we need to see more Order 66? Because Order 66 is very traumatic. On a surface level, it's, if you think it's like quote unquote necessary to see more of, you know, Jedi slaughter and clone betrayal, it's hard to, like, you know, reconcile yourself with the fact that you think that that's necessary. It's like one of the greatest tragedies of Star Wars, if not the greatest tragedy, and we think it's necessary to go back and see it again for more stories. But when you've created a character like Grogu, who is, when a whole part of his story was related to the Jedi, you've got to put in Order 66 there, even if it's for a little bit. Even if it's like, when Order 66 came down, I was taken from the temple. But it would be very important to see why Grogu has the trauma he has, especially when using the Force. Because if he's trained with the Jedi, he should be able to use the Force a little bit more than that. But he has a block towards it. And why does he have a block? Because the people he trained with were cut down in front of him. So as a coping mechanism, he blocked that out. And I do think that then it's important to mention Order 66 again to explain why it's taken him so long to unlock the Force again and to hear it again. Yeah, sit with why maybe you think that why we still need Order 66. I don't think that we need Order 66 necessarily. I think that we need to expand on characters that have been introduced, rather. And Order 66 is a medium to do that. We've seen the main thing. The main time Order 66 happens is in Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. Everything after that is a medium to explain how it happened for different characters. And honestly, I'm okay with that. More thoughts coming soon. I feel like this discourse is interesting and we can have it, and some of us can disagree with each other in a way that is respectful and nuanced. I believe in us. So far, I haven't seen anyone like come after each other, so I'm cool with this. I don't know. I just feel that Order 66 can be referenced without having to always show a massacre. You know, I do agree with this. It's for Grogu's growth and dealing with pain. I did say this. Okay, so talk about it. Do therapy. Why the killing scenes? Just my opinion, regardless. I'm so hyped for it all. Look, I'm hyped for it as well. I love this creator, by the way. Estargos Tia. Yeah, she's fantastic. So, I don't necessarily think it's for Grogu's growth. More a... I don't think that we need pain to grow. I've always believed this. I don't think that you need trauma to grow as a person. I don't think it's the only thing that we need. And the fact that we've conditioned ourselves to believe that trauma is the only thing that lets us grow is a product of today's society and needs to be critically analyzed, I believe. There are more things that help us grow as people than just continued trauma. There are some amazing, beautiful, good things that can happen that can inspire growth in us as well. That can inspire trauma. And what Tia is saying here is true. So why do we have to show people are being killed? I'm gonna be kind of crass maybe here and say it's not about them being killed. I think it's more just about illustrating the story. And when it comes to talk about it, do therapy, etc., if Grogu is going to do any kind of therapy, he's going to talk about it too. But Grogu can't talk yet, so he can only do it in pictures. And I think... I'm thinking of a scene where if he is talking about it with someone, maybe we can do another thing like what Ahsoka did with him in Mando Season 2, where she looks through his memories and then explains it to Din. But I can't imagine people would be happy with that either, because it is literally a tell, don't show approach to it. It's just an exposition dump saying, hey, this person took Grogu from the temple. Everyone, most people that I know who like to watch movies and TV shows and stuff, like to differentiate it from books by saying, show, don't tell. It's a buzz phrase that like gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of people have forgotten kind of what it really means. Or didn't really know it to begin with. But it essentially just means the concept of show, don't tell is a move away from excessive exposition dump. Not all exposition dump, excessive exposition dump. When someone just talks for like an hour of what's going on, that's boring. And instead, you show some of the more impactful things so that our brains remember it, because many of our brains think in pictures. So, in that sense, show don't tell, rather. I would say, fine. Why does it have to be a massacre? Because that's just what Order 66 is as an event. I understand that it can be traumatic to watch that, and it may probably desensitize us to us. In fact, I will be honest, I think I'm kind of desensitized to it a little bit. I'll still always cry when it happens, but in this flashback, I don't think I'm going to be thinking about the deaths of the Jedi and, oh man, the clones betrayed them and all that, as much as I'm going to be thinking about how Grogu feels in that instance, because it's about him. So we should be thinking about, on top of all of this, I think another thing we can be thinking about is, what is the character in question thinking of here? The character in question has not fought alongside the clones for 3 years, so we can save that emotional context that we attach to Order 66. We can save it for when we watch The Bad Batch, or when we watch The Clone Wars, or when we watch Rebels, or the movies. But here, it's about Grogu. It's a very isolated story, and I think that's important to remember as well. Still, completely respect this person's opinion, and I think, yeah, I think it's not. I don't think it's necessary to always show a massacre, but having this little memory where 4 Jedi are killed on the way to like get Grogu, I don't know would qualify as an entire reenactment of Order 66. So I do think that some people might be going a little bit overboard. Anyway, Alan White, who makes he's the owner of Level Up Sabers. He makes a ton of lightsabers. Really, really cool guy. He's on TikTok as well. He says, I don't need more depictions of Order 66. I don't love that we get more and more stories of people who spend their last minutes alone and afraid standing against evil, but I still get loads of comments from people who blame Jedi for Anakin's actions. Maybe this ends that bullshit. I have to say, that's also important to remember as well. Alan is taking the same stance as Tia in the comment there. When why do we have to always show a massacre? To that I say the same thing. And I'll counter with, it's not about the people who spent their last minutes alone, because this was not Grogu's last minutes. This is the beginning of his story. He was taken from the temple in Order 66. His training in the Jedi was a prequel to what actually happens in his story with Mando. So it's not about the Jedi who died. Order 66 is about Grogu in the case of the Mandalorian when we see him there. We don't have to go back to the, we're not going back to a Jedi massacre. We're going back to Grogu's origin story. That's the difference. And when I watch Mandalorian, I'm going to put my emotional context into what Grogu is feeling, rather than what the Clone Wars wants you to feel, which is, the clones built this relationship with the Jedi and then they turned on them. Grogu has none of that context. So I'm going to go into the Mandalorian, and when I watch that scene, I'm going to go into it with Grogu's context, not with clone and Jedi context. Also, these are great. They're kind of like Maltesers, but they've got caramel in them. I absolutely love them. All right. Disney Plus, why not? Mandalorian, definitely. All right, here we go. Screw it. Who wants to go live and talk about it at length? Oh, cool. When did this happen? January 17th? Oh, it's 18th. Aww. That's all right. All right. Editor says, I think I'm out. It's an emotion-based thing for a lot of people, and I've just never seen value in debating things that are rooted in emotion. Okay, fair enough. And like I said, it doesn't seem fun to me to throw film school bullshit at people who are expressing genuine feelings. I don't know. I also agree with that. I think this person also said something earlier about like how many people's reactions to Order 66 come from what should we say? come from an emotional place. So using like media literacy and having a conversation about media literacy when people are talking about their emotions and how they feel about things can be quite different and can be quite frustrating for both parties. So it might just be not a productive conversation to have. Still, if they did go live to talk about it, I wonder if there's like a VOD maybe. I'd be down, sure, I'm down, yeah, I'm in. Sounds like great debate. Yeah. I'm sad that I can't see it now. Because they did it last time. They probably did it last night. Oh well. Coming this Friday evening, live from the Pod Ones. Ooh. Is it time to 86 Order 66? Right off the bat, I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say again, even from an emotional standpoint, no. Because, well, maybe, I don't know what everyone else feels about it. But I would say I'm still fine with it. But that is my personal experience. And so everyone's personal experience is going to differ for this. So if you think you're done, go ahead. Hey, Ash, if you're still in here, I think you might be the only person. What do you think about this? Or anyone else who's watching live, what do you make of the kind of continued existence of Order 66 in Star Wars media? Dave Filoni when he has to work on a project that doesn't have an Order 66 flashback. Oh. If we're talking about this from a film making standpoint, if this is anyone's fault for doing this, it's Dave Filoni's. For he has there's a phrase in a lot of media making. Why? There's a phrase in a lot of media making called kill your darlings. Take the things that you like and realize when it's time to put them down. Now, it's too late for Grogu's case. But maybe after that we can give Order 66 a break. The caramel's getting stuck in my teeth. So, with Dave Filoni, killing your darlings is what happens in the editing room. Or what happens in the writing room. When you write something, and it's the ability to realize when something has lived its time, and it's time for it to go, even if you have an emotional attachment to it. Dave Filoni has that weakness with Order 66, but mainly, he has that weakness with Ahsoka Tano. That is his character. And Ahsoka Tano is a main character in Star Wars. She's 100% she's like Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda. She's a main character. But there is no ways that Dave Filoni would kill her before her story is finished. And I think the Ahsoka story might be the last thing we see of her, but she still might even survive that. So, yeah, I think that's kind of like a trademark for him and his work, that he will continuously reference other stuff that he has made in an effort to kind of connect it all. Which, you know what? Maybe it's in an effort to connect it all, and maybe it's in a fact that maybe he can't let go of the things that he's created. I don't know him personally at all. I'm making snap judgments based on what I've seen in the Star Wars media. But I have to say, it does appear a lot. So, I mean, Order 66 was not his creation anyway. It's just something that he referenced quite heavily in the Clone Wars, obviously. All right, let's keep going. I am ready to get hurt again. See, this is how I feel about it. Like, I'm okay. All right. I'm sorry, but they can't not show another Order 66 flashback in The Mandalorian and not have Anakin appear, especially if we're finally seeing who saved Grogu from the attack. I need it to be March 1st because I need answers. I don't want an Anakin cameo. I feel like that would be just... to me, it'd be weird. Unless they make it organic, we don't need to see it. That's something I don't need to see because Grogu and Anakin do not need to be connected in my head. And that comes from a character analysis standpoint, not like from an emotional exhaustion standpoint. To me, it just wouldn't make sense to just randomly throw a cameo in there. I know Anakin is at the center of Order 66, but the Jedi Temple is huge, and he didn't kill all the Jedi, so there must have been... I don't think it's... Yeah, I think it's fairly reasonable to assume that Anakin would not be there to see Grogu. Star Wars fans, our hearts can't bear to see another Order 6016. Dave Filoni, I got one more in me. The new Mando Order 6016 joining every other Order 6016 in Star Wars. All right. And here we go. Who, and this is also really interesting. This is the one thing that I will forever be disappointed in with the creation of the Book of Boba Fett. I also hate that my green screen is doing this. We're going to quickly fix it. Go away, green screen. Thank you very much. Right. Yeah. There's one thing that I will forever be disappointed in the makers of Book of Boba Fett for, and that is creating not one, but 2 episodes, which not only had no Boba Fett in it, but also created some of the most powerful plot points for both The Mandalorian and Grogu, contained within a show that wasn't theirs. Plot points are fine, but at the end of... If you're just a Mandalorian watcher, at the end of Season 2, Grogu is gone. He goes off with Luke, and he goes off to train. And what happens? Beginning of Season 3, Grogu's back? How do we know? How do we know he's back? If you're just a Mando watcher, that really irritates me. I was disappointed to... I still really enjoyed the scenes. The scenes make sense. But then why call it the Book of Boba Fett? Call it like Mandalorian and Boba Fett or something. I don't know. Like expand the title of Mandalorian, because Boba Fett is also technically one. Like, it was just a weird decision. And it felt like a weird decision to get people to watch the Book of Boba Fett as well as the Mandalorian. And just to me, my little anti-capitalist leftist brain is thinking maybe a ploy to make money and to get people to watch more shows. But it's just really irritating. Anyway, the reaction of Star Wars fans who skipped the Book of Boba Fett and just jumped into the Mandalorian. Exactly. How are they going to explain this? Are they just going to redo it? And then Cody Johnston, whom I love, says, just found out from this meme that the central emotional plot point of The Mandalorian was resolved in some other show that I will never watch. And that is what disappoints me about this. I'm not pissed off about it. Maybe a little, but I don't want to spend energy on being pissed off. It's just disappointing. And I hope that they explain it nicely in Mando Season 3 without just repeating them. What is going on with television? I can't stop laughing. This is absurd. Why would you do this? All right, so this person says, I don't want to victim blame here, but if you watch a show about a Mandalorian loner bounty hunter, why wouldn't you watch the show about the other Mandalorian loner bounty hunter? Look, that's fair, but the Mandalorian wasn't even teased in there. We only knew that he was going to be in there later. I don't think the trailer mentioned Mando was going to be there at all. What's the difference between the two shows? Why would someone watch one but not the other? I mean, they are 2 completely different plots. But yeah. Anyway, the way they force building an MCU style universe throughout these shows, I love that actually. I really, really like a Star Wars expanded universe. I just also love the fact that you can come to any Star Wars project and still be in the loop for all the things you need to know. And The Mandalorian and Boba Fett was the first one that didn't do that, in my opinion. Like, for example, they say that you don't need to watch Rebels to watch Ahsoka and understand everything. That's fine. I would love that. Ooh, this person says, oh no, do you mean that to understand the Rise of Skywalker, I have to watch Revenge of the Sith? So I have to watch The Mandalorian Season 2 to understand the Book of Boba Fett, to understand that Maul in Solo, I have to watch the Clone Wars? Gee, the nerve. Okay. It's a good point. I hadn't considered it. I'm gonna say that it's a little bit different, especially the first part. the first part I'm gonna understand I'm gonna say is a little bit different, because they're movies and you know they form part of the same saga. So Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett can potentially not have that much to do with each other. Mando comes in and fights with Boba Fett. He could have been just a cameo. Obviously, if he's fighting with Grogu, we have to explain how Grogu's there. But, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me, right? Like, am I the only one here? I feel like I'm not. But then, the second one, I have to watch The Mandalorian Season 2 to understand the Book of Boba Fett. You know what? That's true. And the reverse is also true. Boba Fett was introduced in Mando Season 2. So I guess they're kind of connected in that sense. To understand Maul in Solo, I have to watch the Clone Wars. Maul is a cameo in Solo, so if you want to know more, you can go back and watch Clone Wars. He doesn't really give you any like plot points. Nothing happens to him. He's not like a not like a main character. Mando in the Book of Boba Fett becomes a main central character. Honestly, but having said the second part and flipping it over, I'd never actually considered that. I am developing my opinion on how I feel about Boba Fett. Knowing that Boba Fett himself appears in Mandalorian, to me, is enough evidence to illustrate that these two shows are inherently tied together. And you know what? I did enjoy Book of Boba Fett, so I am going to say that. I remain disappointed that there isn't more of a push to be like, hey, you should watch the Book of Boba Fett if you like want to be caught up on Mandalorian, because a lot of people just don't know that. But you know what? I can take it. I think this has helped me develop my viewpoint. Thank you. Thank you, the Wook. I appreciate that. Pretty bad show too. Disagree. Hard disagree. Loved the Book of Boba Fett. Oh no, you stumbled onto a massive sci-fi franchise with a continuity that carries through movies, TV shows, some video games, even comic books over decades, and now you're upset you can just watch one part and understand everything. It's not about understanding everything. It's about like the biggest plot point. It's the emotional thing. That's the thing that will always disappoint me. Is the fact that I'm okay with Mando doing stuff in Boba Fett. I don't want him to be alone. Like, and I don't think anyone is saying that. It's this. Read the full thing. The central emotional plot point of The Mandalorian. It's not about like some other show that I will never watch, because you actually should watch the Book of Boba Fett. And we've now established through a developed point of view that the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian are linked inextricably. Boba Fett was introduced in The Mandalorian, and therefore so was Fennec Shan, and therefore Mandalorian is linked to Boba Fett inherently because his origin appears in some other TV show, right? Imagine if you were from the other perspective, you'd be like, imagine thinking that the origin of one of my favorite characters, Boba Fett, lies in some other show that I will never watch. Like, I mean, meh. The difference is, you literally only need to know that Boba Fett is in charge of Tatooine now. And that's it. But the problem is that Mandalorian, the emotional moment, the emotional plot point, as Cody says, in The Mandalorian was him and Grogu. And the fact that Grogu's gone at the end of season 2 and he's here again at the beginning of season 3, it just feels a little bit more than just a universe with continuity. Anyway, let's see. Cinematic universe is a clever invention indeed. Why have you consumed the whole product in a single package when they can spread it out over many packages? Make it uncertain whether the newest package even has part of the product, so FOMO compels you to pay for it just in case. That's my leftist brain. That's my leftist brain going, did they do that? Did they do that on purpose? All right. Look, being a connected, I expected more crossover. I'm gonna be honest. We're keeping going. I expected more crossover, but what I didn't expect was the most important moment in the character's life to happen in a moment that wasn't his show. Anyway. Right, so here is the better tweet about this. And we'll go back to Order 66 because this is why the Order 66 flashbacks are necessary. Because for a lot of the general public, Mandalorian is a standalone property, and the stuff with Grogu and Luke happened in the Book of Boba Fett. So that, like, yeah, to me, that seems fine. I'm okay with seeing Order 66 for that context. To explain context. In The Mandalorian Season 3, I really hope they're going to explain context to the mainstream only Mandalorian watchers that Grogu's somehow magically back with Din. There's no way Hayden filmed another Order 66 scene for Mandalorian while they were already filming for Kenobi. Haha, right? Haha, right. I don't want it. I'll be fine if it's here. Because, I mean, I'm not going to hate it. Just a news flash for me. I don't hate any Star Wars. I love all things Star Wars. And I can find something to love in all of them. I wouldn't, this is not something that I need. I'll say that. We'll be talking Friday night about Order 66, yeah. Honestly, I haven't listened to a full Pod Ones podcast before. But yeah, they seem really cool. We should mark your calendars for Friday, and maybe tune in. Oh, see, look at this. If you put them together like this, it's so cool. It's terrible and so tragic, but it's so, like, it creates this continuity across all of them, and it's just, yeah, I really, yeah. I mean, it's horrific. Oh God, I mean, it's horrific, but it's just, yeah. It's yeah. Let's listen to it quickly.
Yes.
I must ask.
Are you okay?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes, my lord.
It's Anakin. What's happening?
wow.
Master. No answer, sure.
Yo, the music timing from those two scenes. Look at that. The way that Anakin's betrayal gets timed with Caleb Doom going master. That's so cool.
No answer, sure.
Wait. There we go. Yeah.
Master.
And the violins come in. That's so cool. I like that. Still, this is cool. It's a beautiful and tragic and traumatic storytelling moment that is told from different character perspectives, and I really like that. Here we go. Let's read more. Not that it's all bad. Excuse me, but it's truly stunning to me how the Mandalorian becomes a slightly more exaggerated parody of itself with each successive season. Baby Yoda's being cute again. There's another Order 66 flashback. Mando says this is the way twice. Really? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I see the point in the tweet. But that's just me. Hayden Christensen watching Kenobi. I'm sure we shot more Order 66 footage. Oh well, must have just gotten cut. All right, me having to see Mandalorian Order 66 again. Oh. Yeah, like, this is fine. I'm not really, I don't think of it, okay, so here's another one. I think part of it too is Order 66 has become linked to, and another example of, how Dave will ignore established canon to make his own story because of Kanan in the Bad Batch. What do you mean? Wait, why does Kanan in the Bad Batch ignore established canon? Does Kanan, like... Is it because of his master? Because of Depa Bilaba? Because her fate was legends before canon came along and confirmed. I do think that Dave Filoni has a problem with looking at the books, as we see in the last episode of Tales of the Jedi. That can especially become problematic when you don't have an LGBT like person of color who was a pretty important character for Ahsoka just not appear. However, I am also of the belief that those two events happened in different places. They're like they're two completely different events. Having said that, though, if you can just make a new event, why not just confirm something from the books as being true? Why not just have the last episode be the one from the books instead of an entirely new one? Anyway. I'm not sure about, like, I understand this part. I'm not sure about Kanan and the Bad. Like, I have no idea about Kanan and the Bad Batch. Let's clarify. All right. Star Wars fans trying to avoid Order 66 flashbacks in a show. Okay, here we go. This is the one that I was talking about. I'm disengaging from this discussion because the Order 66 fatigue perspectives are coming from emotional or personal exhaustion angles, and that's not fair to try and invalidate with film school bullshit, in my opinion. Love y'all. I agree that you can that it might be important to sort of separate the two for sure. Bad Batch spoilers. I'm not gonna look at that because I haven't seen Bad Batch yet. Reva asks Obi-Wan, "Where were you while he was killing my friends?" At this time, during Anakin's onslaught following the declaration of Order 66, Obi-Wan was on Utapau after he killed General Grievous. I mean, we know this, but yeah, I mean, obviously he feels incredible guilt for that. Okay. Live-action Star Wars is made with the casual audience in mind. So if you remove the animated shows, we've only gotten Order 66 twice outside of the movie. One of those, Filoni wasn't even directly involved. If it's intentional and purposeful, I think it's fine to have. Absolutely agreed. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe Order 66 is as much of an iconic moment in Star Wars as Luke looking at Tatooine's binary sunset. Absolutely true. That is a based take. We've seen it so many times, but from so many different perspectives, both during and after the event. And they parallel this all the time, by the way. Like, Luke does it at the end of his life. Rey does it at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. It's, yeah. This kind of view is mimicked all the time. So why can't we see it from two different angles, you know? Order 66 flashback looking way more clear. Interesting. That Jedi looks like Sindralig. If you don't know who Sindralig is, he's the Jedi battle master, like the weapon master of the Jedi Order in Legends. Y'all really thought we'd seen the last of Order 66? We're gonna be seeing Order 66 in new project for the rest of our lives. I don't know if it's gonna go that far. Here's my developed opinion. I've already said it a few times before, but my opinion about what happens after this is Order 66 only needs to be told if there is a reason for a character to be in the middle of it. If we need to understand more about another character, If not, it's not necessary to just show it again. But the difference is they're not showing it again. So the difficulty is the emotional exhaustion from Order 66 would be more... I would be more on board and opposed to seeing Order 66 if it was just showed to traumatize us. But that's what we're putting on the show creators. They're not doing it to traumatize us. They're doing it to create more context for a story for a character in the middle of Order 66. So I don't think that it's an unnecessary thing to be doing. After Grogu's story is finished, maybe don't revisit it again for a while. But also remember that people who watch Star Wars are, especially live action, are not going to watch... Many of the people who watch Star Wars don't watch all of the Star Wars. So they may not have the same context that people like me do, who watch all of the Star Wars. Alright, let's see. Oh, he's so cute, though. I love this. Dave Filoni, you must relive Order 66 at least 66 times so that you may be forgiven for your transgressions. It's so great. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I like that. Babe, it's time for your Dave Filoni mandated Order 66 flashback. Genuinely convinced Dave Filoni would throw an Order 66 flashback into his own funeral if he could. Oh. I'm gonna... I really want to see... I really want to watch Bad Batch 2. Okay. Another thing I'm thinking is a lot of people are putting their own personal... Oh, wait. Here. How many versions and POVs of Order 66 until the audience is completely numb to it? Is art of suggestive storytelling dead? There are other emotional hooks in Star Wars aside from Jedi slaughter. This is my opinion. I don't know if it's if it's an emotional hook just to traumatize us. I am taking it as a way to explore upon a character and a way to explain how he got out of the temple. How else are you going to explain that without someone telling you that it happened? And then people come out of the woodwork and go, is show not tell dead? Like, I feel like the creator can't win here if they're putting... the writer can't win. If they put in a flashback, people are going to be like, too much Order 66. And if they don't put in a flashback, they'll be like, why didn't you show us where Grogu came from instead of just what you did, which was, like, dumping all this, like, exposition on us in text that characters are saying. I feel like I'm saying the same things again, so I'm not going to... I'm not gonna go over it like too much longer. It's just something I got caught up in. But yeah, I don't really care that we're seeing Order 66 in because I just assumed in that scene we're gonna see how Grogu escaped. So in that context only, I'm okay with it. Exactly. Like why? Yeah. Sometimes Star Wars goes to the well too often with locations, events, and even characters, so I understand Order 66 fatigue, but disasters often shape society for generations, and the emotional ripples of that event shape characters. It's a flashpoint, not an action scene. Absolutely! 100% agreed. It's not about, oh look, here's more Jedi slaughter for you. Let's see... Terra Sanube rescued Grogu. Think about it. You know I'm right. He knew the way ahead and acted accordingly before Order 66 was initiated. Yo! That would be amazing. That'd be so cool. Alright, I'm not upset or disappointed in more Order 66, and here's why. I love this. I love this creator, so let's hear about it. Number one. We only have one full account of Order 66 in canon, and that's Ahsoka's. Everybody else's is fragmented. Every time we have a survivor of Order 66, we get a new path for how this event affected them. Obi-Wan and Yoda versus Ahsoka versus Reva versus Grogu versus Quinlan Voss in Legends versus Anakin versus clones. I have no problem with unique perspectives like this, as long as you keep the path fresh. Additionally, after having no Russian the Jedi Temple in the original Battlefront 2's campaign, and offing Sindralik and Sarah Kato as Vader, it doesn't hit me emotionally anymore. I mean, that's true, to be honest. This is also true. Yeah, I have to. This is the take. This is the take for me. And Cal Kestis is another. This is my take. I'm actually going to quote this. Okay. Okay. Getting Order 66? Just say you are a Sith. Your clone legally cannot kill you without you being a Jedi. Oh, that's fantastic. Goodness. All right. Excellent. No, go away. All right, everybody. It's now 1:24. I've talked about Order 66 a lot today. That's part of our media discussion. Is there anything else that anyone wants me to talk about? Probably not. I don't think there's anyone watching right now, but it's fine. If you're watching the VOD later, thank you very much for watching. And I think we'll end it there. Oh, damn it. It was like the worst time to eat something. Anyway. Everyone's still hydrated? Hope you are. Very cool. Alright, and here we go. I'm finishing before I do the outro. I apologize. Alrighty, here we go. Everyone, not only did we read some really cool Star Wars stuff, but eventually we went on to Order 66 and had a nice media discussion there. If you watched the stream early, late, in the middle sometimes, if you're here now, thank you very much. I appreciate you being part of the community as well. If you're watching the VODs afterwards and the videos that remain, thank you again. I appreciate that too. I really, really do. And to all of you, no matter where you are in the world, make sure to be nice to yourself because there's so many people who are not going to. So if you don't look out for yourself, who will? And make sure to rely on the people that are looking after you and who you're looking after, the people that you let into your life and that you care about. Be a little kinder to yourself, and don't forget to have a great day. Thank you for tuning into the Everything GM broadcast. If you want to know everything about who I am, you can check the links down below. I've got a main page, a social media link page, and a Discord server where you can join and hang out whenever you like. You can give this video a like if you want to, do all the stuff you want. And we're going to end off today's stream with another damn good track. This one's called Meet You Where You Are by Cadmium and Caravan. Just ending us off on the stream today. It is 1:25 p.m. It's just about lunchtime for me in South Korea. Wherever you are in the world, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening. And I'll see you in the next broadcast. Take care. This is After 9 by Jack Shore.
Or twice, but you look so fine. You are the sunshine in my life. Will you come over to my place at 9? You are the sunshine in my life. Will you come over to my place at 9? At 9, at 9, at 9, at 9, after 9, after 9, after 9, after 9, after 9. so fine. So darling, please don't mind. I fell in love maybe once or twice, but you look so fine. You are the sunshine in my life.